Stranger claims he purchased my lake house from the HOA, but it's been in my family for generations. I never thought I'd have to fight to keep my own home, especially one that's been in my family for 3 generations. But here I am, sharing my story about how a stranger showed up at my door claiming he owned my lake house, and how I had to battle both him and our corrupt HOA to keep my family's legacy intact. It was a crisp autumn morning when everything started. I was enjoying my coffee on the wraparound porch, watching the sunrise over Lake Mitchell just like my grandfather used to do. The maple trees were starting to turn golden, their leaves reflecting in the still water. This house had been our family's sanctuary since 1952, when my grandfather built it with his own hands. Every board, every nail, every window held a memory. The knock on my front door was forceful, almost aggressive. When I opened it, I found myself face to face with a well-dressed man in his 40s, holding a leather briefcase. "Good morning," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm Marcus Peterson, the new owner of this property." I thought it was a joke at first. There must be some mistake. This is my house. Actually, it's not anymore. He pulled out a stack of official-looking papers from his briefcase. "I purchased this property from the Lake Mitchell Homeowners Association last month. They foreclosed on it due to unpaid dues and special assessments. I have all the paperwork right here." My heart started racing. "That's impossible. I've never missed a payment in my life. I have records of everything." Marcus's smile turned condescending. "Look, I understand this must be difficult, but the sale is final. You have 30 days to vacate the premises." I snatched the papers from his hands and started reading. The documents looked legitimate at first glance. There were official stamps, signatures, and even a deed transfer. But something felt off. "This is ridiculous," I said. "I'm calling my lawyer." "Do what you need to do," Marcus replied, checking his expensive watch. "But I'll be moving in next month. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." He handed me his business card and walked away, leaving me standing there with shaking hands. I immediately called Evelyn Brown, my family's lawyer for the past decade. She agreed to meet me that afternoon. While waiting for our appointment, I dug through my files, pulling out every piece of documentation related to the house and the HOA. Years of carefully organized receipts, correspondence, and bank statements. Evelyn's office was downtown, a modest space filled with law books and family photos. She listened intently as I explained the situation, examining the papers Marcus had given me. "Something's definitely not right here," she said, frowning at the documents. "These HOA foreclosure papers claim you owed over $50,000 in unpaid dues and assessments. That's absurd for a lake house HOA." "Exactly," I exclaimed. "Our annual dues are only $800, and I've never missed a payment. I have proof right here." I showed her my records. Evelyn started taking notes. "The signatures on these documents, they look similar to other HOA paperwork, but there are subtle differences. And look at the notary stamp. It's from a county 3 hours away. Why would Lake Mitchell HOA use a notary from there?" We spent the next few hours building a timeline. That's when patterns started emerging. The HOA board had changed significantly over the past year. The longtime president, Tom Wilson, had resigned suddenly, replaced by a new board comprised entirely of people who'd moved to the lake within the last 2 years. "I need to make some calls," Evelyn said, "and we should file for an emergency injunction to prevent any attempts to evict you while we investigate this." The next few weeks were a blur of legal research and detective work. Evelyn discovered that Marcus Peterson wasn't just some random buyer. He was connected to 3 of the new HOA board members through various business dealings. They had all worked together at a real estate investment firm 5 years ago. More disturbing was what we found when Evelyn subpoenaed the HOA's financial records. The new board had quietly passed a series of special assessments targeting only certain properties, all older homes owned by longtime residents. These assessments were never properly communicated to the homeowners. "They're trying to force out original owners," Evelyn explained. "Buy up the properties cheap through fraudulent foreclosures, then flip them for massive profits. Lake property values have skyrocketed in the past few years." I felt sick. How many other families are they doing this to? At least 5 other properties have similar proceedings started against them. But they picked you first because your house has the best location on the lake. We filed a lawsuit against both Marcus Peterson and the HOA board members, alleging fraud, conspiracy, and violation of HOA bylaws. The local news caught wind of the story, and suddenly our quiet lake community was in the spotlight. Other homeowners started coming forward with similar stories of unexplained fees and threatening letters. Tom Wilson, the former HOA president, reached out to me privately. "They forced me out," he admitted, threatened to make up accusations about mismanaging HOA funds if I didn't resign. I should have fought back, but I was scared. I'm willing to testify about what they did. The HOA board members tried to deny everything at first, but their story started unraveling when we discovered emails between them and Marcus, dating back months before the supposed foreclosure, discussing plans for acquiring premium lake properties. The court hearing was set for early December. The morning it began, snow was falling gently outside the courthouse. I sat nervously beside Evelyn as she presented our evidence. The judge's face grew increasingly stern as she walked through the elaborate scheme. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that even if there were procedural irregularities, the sale was still valid. But Evelyn was prepared. "Your Honor, this wasn't just irregular. It was a calculated fraud. The defendants conspired to abuse their positions on the HOA board to steal properties from legitimate owners. We have evidence of falsified documents, hidden communications, and violations of multiple state laws." The testimony from other homeowners and Tom Wilson was devastating to their case. One elderly couple broke down crying as they described receiving threatening letters demanding payment for assessments they'd never been properly notified about. After 3 days of hearings, the judge had heard enough. Her ruling was unequivocal. The foreclosure and sale were void. She ordered a criminal investigation into the board members' actions and appointed a neutral third party to temporarily manage the HOA. The actions of the defendants show a shocking disregard for both the law and basic human decency, she declared. This court will not allow them to profit from their fraudulent scheme. Marcus stormed out of the courtroom without looking at anyone. 3 months later, he and 2 of the board members were indicted on fraud charges. They eventually pleaded guilty in exchange for reduced sentences. The aftermath brought positive changes to our lake community. We rewrote the HOA bylaws to require greater transparency and implemented strict controls on special assessments. Most importantly, the experience brought neighbors together. People who had barely spoken before now looked out for each other. Last weekend, I hosted a community barbecue at my house, something my grandfather used to do every summer. As I watched kids playing on the lawn and neighbors chatting on the porch he built, I felt profound gratitude. This house isn't just a valuable piece of real estate. It's a living connection to my family's history and our community's heart. The lake was particularly beautiful that evening, the setting sun painting the water in shades of gold and pink. My grandfather used to say that a house is made of wood and nails, but a home is made of memories and love. Standing there, watching my neighbors become friends and children make new memories, I knew we'd protected something far more precious than property rights. The legal battle wasn't just about keeping my house, it was about standing up to people who thought their money and schemes could erase generations of history and community bonds. Sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even when the odds seem stacked against you. Evelyn still jokes that this case will be her legacy. She's handling similar cases now, helping other communities fight back against predatory real estate schemes. As for me, I've become something of an advocate for HOA reform, speaking at local government meetings and advising other homeowners about their rights. The maple trees are turning golden again outside my window as I write this. Soon I'll go sit on the porch with my morning coffee, just like my grandfather did, and watch the sunrise over Lake Mitchell. But now I appreciate these simple moments even more, knowing how close we came to losing this special place. To anyone facing a similar battle, don't give up. Keep your records, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to fight back. Sometimes the most valuable things in life are worth fighting for, even if the fight seems impossible at first. Marcus Peterson is serving 18 months in county jail now, and the other board members received similar sentences. The last I heard, they're also facing civil lawsuits from other communities where they tried similar schemes. Justice doesn't always come quickly, but it does come. As for the Lake Mitchell community, we're stronger than ever. The new HOA board is made up of both longtime residents and newer homeowners, all committed to preserving what makes this place special. We've started a community archive, collecting stories and photos of the lake's history, ensuring that future generations will understand and appreciate the legacy they're inheriting. My grandfather's original blueprints for the house are framed in my study now, a reminder of the craftsmanship and love that went into building not just a house, but a home. Every morning when I wake up, and every evening when I watch the sunset over the lake, I'm thankful for the strength and support that helped us save this special place. Sometimes I wonder what my grandfather would think about all this. I like to believe he'd be proud, not just of saving the house he built, but of helping to protect the community he loved. In the end, that's what homes are really about, not just the buildings themselves, but the memories, relationships, and sense of belonging they represent. The legal documents proving my ownership are stored safely away now, but I don't need papers to know that this place is where I belong. It's in the worn paths in the hardwood floors, the height marks penciled on the kitchen doorframe, and the initials carved into the old oak tree by the dock. It's in the stories passed down through generations and the new ones being created every day. Next spring, I'm planning to teach my neighbors' kids how to fish off the dock, just like my grandfather taught me. The lake house will keep collecting memories, hosting celebrations, and sheltering dreams for years to come. And that's worth more than any amount of money Marcus Peterson and his conspirators could have offered. As I finish writing this, I can hear kids playing outside, the children of both old and new neighbors, running and laughing together on the lakefront where generations have played before them. That's the real victory in all of this. Not just preserving a house, but keeping alive the spirit of community that makes this place truly special. The legal battle tested us, but it also showed us what we're capable of when we stand together against injustice. Every weekend now, I see neighbors helping neighbors, sharing stories and building bonds that will last for generations to come. That's my grandfather's true legacy, not just the house he built, but the community he helped create. To anyone reading this who might be facing their own battle to protect what they love, remember that you're not alone. Communities are stronger than conspiracies, and justice, though sometimes slow, has a way of prevailing. Keep fighting for what's right, and don't let anyone tell you that money matters more than memories. Looking back now, I'm actually grateful for what happened in a way. It taught us all how precious our community is and how important it is to protect it. Sometimes it takes almost losing something to truly appreciate its value. The lake is calm this evening, reflecting the first stars of twilight. Soon I'll head inside to the house my grandfather built, the home we fought to protect, and I'll rest easy knowing that it's safe for future generations. Some victories are measured not just in legal terms, but in the peace of mind that comes from knowing you stood up for what's right, and won. Update. It's been 1 year since we won our court battle against Marcus Peterson and the corrupt HOA board. A lot has changed since then, and I wanted to share how things turned out, not just for me, but for our entire lake community. First, the legal aftermath was more extensive than we initially expected. After the criminal convictions, our lawyer Evelyn filed a class action civil suit on behalf of all the affected homeowners. The evidence we uncovered during our case opened up a whole network of similar schemes across 3 states. The FBI got involved when they discovered Marcus and his associates had used wire fraud to pull off similar HOA takeovers in other communities. They had a pattern: infiltrate HOA boards, pass hidden assessments, fabricate debt, then force foreclosures to snap up valuable properties. Evelyn called me one morning, her voice excited. "You won't believe what the FBI found." Marcus and his team had a whole playbook. They targeted historic properties in appreciating areas, especially waterfront communities. Your grandfather's house wasn't their first attempt, but it was their biggest mistake. The federal investigation revealed offshore accounts where they'd hidden profits from previous schemes. This evidence strengthened our civil case significantly. Last month, the judge awarded our community $4.2 million in damages, plus another $2.8 million in punitive damages. They're not getting out of prison anytime soon, Evelyn told me. The federal charges added another 5 years to their sentences. And the best part? All their assets are being liquidated to pay restitution to the communities they targeted. But the money wasn't the most important outcome. What really mattered was how our community transformed through this experience. We used part of the settlement to establish a legal defense fund for other neighborhoods facing similar threats. So far, we've helped 3 other communities fight off predatory developers. Tom Wilson, our former HOA president, became a key advocate for HOA reform. He's now working with state legislators to draft new laws requiring greater transparency and protecting homeowners from fraudulent takeovers. What happened at Lake Mitchell was a wake-up call, he testified at a state Senate hearing. We need stronger protections for homeowners and stricter oversight of HOA boards. These aren't just houses we're protecting, they're people's homes and histories. The new legislation, nicknamed the Lake Mitchell Law, passed with broad bipartisan support. It requires HOA boards to record all meetings, mandates detailed financial reporting, and creates criminal penalties for board members who abuse their positions for personal gain. Our community didn't just survive this challenge, we got stronger. The new HOA board, elected after the crisis, implemented all sorts of positive changes. We created a community oversight committee that includes both longtime residents and newer homeowners. Every financial decision is now thoroughly documented and communicated to all members. Remember those special assessments they used to try to force us out? We now have a clear process for any new fees. They require a 75% vote from all homeowners, not just board members, and detailed project plans must be published 60 days before any vote. The story caught national attention, and I've been asked to speak at homeowner rights conferences across the country. Last month, I addressed a room of 300 people in Chicago, sharing our experience and the lessons we learned. Document everything, I told them. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. And most importantly, build relationships with your neighbors. Community solidarity is your strongest defense against these schemes. But the best changes have been right here at home. Remember that community barbecue I mentioned? It's now a monthly tradition. We take turns hosting, sharing stories and building bonds that make our community stronger. The kids who play on my lawn call me Uncle Lake House now, a nickname I've grown to love. Last week I found some old photos in my grandfather's workshop. They showed the lake house under construction in 1952, surrounded by empty lots that would later become our neighborhood. On the back of one photo he'd written, "Building more than a house, building a future." That really hit home. When Marcus Peterson tried to take this place, he wasn't just after prime real estate. He was trying to erase a legacy of community that took generations to build. By standing up to him, we protected more than property rights, we preserved a way of life. The settlement money helped us make some needed improvements to the neighborhood. We upgraded the community dock, built a proper playground for the kids, and established a maintenance fund to help older residents keep up their properties. But more importantly, we started an annual scholarship program for local students interested in community development or law. Evelyn jokes that she should rename her practice Lake Mitchell Legal because of all the referrals she gets from other communities facing similar situations. She's become the go-to expert on fighting fraudulent HOA takeovers, and she's training other lawyers to handle these cases. Your case created a blueprint, she told me recently. Now, when we see these patterns, we know exactly how to fight back. And the best part is, the bad guys know we know. It's getting harder for them to pull off these schemes. Marcus Peterson tried to appeal his conviction, but it was denied. During the appeal hearing, he finally showed some remorse, though whether it was genuine or just for show, I couldn't tell. His business empire has crumbled. The properties he acquired through similar schemes in other communities are being returned to their rightful owners. One of the former board members who worked with Marcus reached out to me after serving his sentence. He wanted to apologize in person. We met at a coffee shop downtown, and he broke down crying. I got greedy, he admitted. They promised easy money, and I convinced myself no one would get hurt. I didn't think about the families, the histories, the memories we were trying to steal. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I didn't offer forgiveness, that wasn't mine alone to give. But I did thank him for his honesty and encouraged him to share his story as a warning to others who might be tempted by similar schemes. The lake is different now, or maybe I just see it differently. Each morning when I have my coffee on the porch, I notice more neighbors walking, jogging, or just stopping to chat. There's a stronger sense of ownership, not just of our individual properties, but of the community we share. We've started documenting our community's history properly. The Lake Mitchell Historical Society, yes, we actually created one, meets monthly in different homes. We're collecting stories, photographs, and documents that tell the story of this place and the people who've called it home. My grandfather's blueprints aren't just framed in my study anymore. Copies are now part of the Historical Society's collection, along with photos and stories from other original families. Future generations will know how this community was built and how we fought to protect it. The legal victory changed me too. I'm not just the quiet guy who inherited his grandfather's lake house anymore. I've become an advocate for homeowner rights, sharing our story to help others protect their communities. It's not a role I ever expected to play, but sometimes life pushes you to become more than you thought you could be. Last month, I helped another family fight off a similar scheme in a nearby town. Watching them win their case, seeing the relief and joy on their faces, I understood even better why this fight matters so much. It's not just about houses, it's about standing up to bullies who think money gives them the right to destroy people's lives. The lake house itself has never felt more alive. I've opened it up more, hosting community events and letting neighbors use the dock for fishing and swimming. My grandfather would have loved seeing it become such a gathering place. The worn paths and the hardwood floors now tell stories of community as much as family. We're planning a big celebration next summer, the 70th anniversary of when my grandfather built this house. The whole community is getting involved, sharing photos and stories from 7 decades of lake life. We'll have boat races, a fishing tournament, and yes, another big barbecue. The last page of our community newsletter now includes a regular feature called Know Your Rights, where we share information about HOA laws and homeowner protections. Knowledge really is power, and we're committed to making sure no one in our community ever feels vulnerable to schemes like Marcus Peterson's again. The legal defense fund we established has already helped stop 2 other attempted fraudulent takeovers in nearby communities. We're creating a network of informed homeowners and capable lawyers who can recognize and fight these schemes early, before they take root. Sometimes I wonder what Marcus Peterson thinks about in his prison cell. Does he understand that he didn't just fail to steal a house, he accidentally helped create a movement for homeowner rights and community protection? His greed ended up making communities like ours stronger and more resilient. The sun still rises beautifully over Lake Mitchell every morning, but now I see it differently. Each dawn reminds me that some things are worth fighting for, that communities are stronger than conspiracies, and that justice, though sometimes slow, eventually prevails. To anyone facing a similar battle, stand firm, document everything, and never be afraid to fight for what's right. Our story proves that when communities stand together, even the most elaborate schemes can be defeated. The house my grandfather built still stands as a testament to that truth, and now it's stronger than ever.